there is a world that exists between earth and sky, a realm suspended in green shadows and dappled sunlight, where life flourishes in ways most people will never witness. Tonight, we're climbing up into that hidden universe, leaving the forest floor behind and ascending into the canopy, where the rules of survival are written differently and every branch holds a story waiting to be discovered. Welcome to Bedtime Biology, where science meets serenity. Each night, we explore the quiet wonders of the natural world, calming your mind and sparking your curiosity. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing to the channel and commenting below if you have any feedback or suggestions for topics of future episodes. High above the forest floor, where sunlight pours down in golden sheets and the air moves freely through the leaves, exists one of Earth's most extraordinary ecosystems. The rainforest canopy has been called the last biotic frontier, a phrase that captures both its mystery and its magnificence. This leafy ceiling, formed by the crowns of countless trees, creates an entirely separate world, one that remained largely unexplored by scientists until recent decades. Even today, with modern technology like canopy walkways, construction cranes, and drones, we're still discovering new species and uncovering secrets hidden among the branches. The canopy isn't just one layer, but rather a complex, three-dimensional landscape of overlapping crowns and intertwining branches, a living architecture that has been millions of years in the making. In a typical tropical rainforest, the canopy itself sits between 60 and 130 feet above the ground, though some trees push even higher into what's called the emergent layer. These giant emergents can tower up to 200 feet, their crowns breaking through the main canopy to stand alone in full sunlight, exposed to wind and weather that the sheltered layers below never experience. Some of these emergent trees are hundreds of years old, ancient giants that were saplings when your great-great-grandparents were children. Below them, the canopy proper forms a nearly continuous ceiling, a green ocean frozen in mid-wave. The density of this layer is remarkable. Leaves overlap leaves, branches intertwine with branches from neighboring trees. And yet, if you could hover above a rainforest in a helicopter, you'd notice something peculiar. Despite how close the tree crowns grow to one another, despite the apparent density when viewed from below, they rarely actually touch. Instead, they're separated by narrow gaps, sometimes just a few inches wide, creating puzzle piece edges visible from above. This phenomenon is called crown shyness, and scientists believe it may result from trees avoiding damage from their neighbors in the wind, or perhaps from competition for light causing the outermost twigs to die back when they encounter another tree's crown. These gaps aren't random. They follow the contours of each tree's crown, creating channel-like patterns that allow light to penetrate deeper than it would if the crowns formed a solid mass. They also serve as aerial pathways for some animals, though crossing these gaps requires either a leap or a descent to lower branches where neighboring trees might connect. The pattern of crown shyness is so consistent in some forests that it creates a visible network when viewed from above, a natural mosaic that reveals the individuality of each tree even as they form a collective whole. This architectural arrangement creates distinct climate zones within the forest. Up in the canopy, temperatures can soar during the day, sometimes reaching 15 degrees higher than the forest floor. The humidity is lower here too, and the wind moves more freely, rustling through millions of leaves. But the canopy also acts as a shield, intercepting up to 80% of the sunlight before it can reach the ground. Rain falls differently here as well. A heavy downpour beating on the canopy roof is broken apart, transformed from large drops into a fine mist by the time it filters down through all those layers of leaves. Water also travels down the tree trunks, flowing in the furrows of bark like tiny rivers. And this becomes important for the creatures that live in this aerial world. The canopy is responsible for at least half of the global exchange of carbon dioxide between forests and the atmosphere, making these tree crowns crucial players in regulating Earth's climate. The leaves up here photosynthesize at extraordinary rates, converting sunlight into energy and producing abundant fruits, seeds, flowers, and new leaves. This productivity is what supports the astonishing diversity of life in the canopy. By some estimates, 70 to 90% of all rainforest species live in the trees, above the shaded forest floor. That means, if you want to understand a rainforest's true biodiversity, you need to look up. The physical structure of the canopy creates countless microhabitats, each with its own conditions of light, humidity, and temperature. A branch fork might collect water and organic debris, becoming a miniature wetland dozens of feet in the air. A crack in bark can shelter insects and small vertebrates. The crown of a single large tree can be as complex as an entire terrestrial habitat, offering different conditions at different heights and in different positions relative to the sun and wind. This complexity is part of what makes the canopy so rich with life. What makes the canopy even more remarkable is that it's not just trees up there. Whole communities of plants have evolved to live their entire lives without ever touching the ground. These are the epiphytes, and they transform the canopy from a simple layer of leaves into a vertical garden of extraordinary complexity. The word epiphyte comes from Greek roots meaning upon a plant. And that's exactly what they are. Plants that grow on other plants, using them only for physical support and taking nothing from them in the way that parasites would. Epiphytes belong to many different plant families, but the most spectacular are probably the orchids. There are over 18,000 species of orchids described by science, and it's estimated that 10 to 12,000 more species await discovery. Many of these species are endemic to incredibly specific locations, like a single valley in the Andes or a particular tepui in the Guiana Shield. Orchids represent about 8% of all flowering plants found worldwide, and roughly 75% of all orchid species are epiphytic, meaning they've adapted to life in the trees. They're particularly abundant in what scientists call cloud forests, those misty elevations between 3,300 and 6,600 feet, where fog wraps around the mountains and keeps everything perpetually damp. An epiphytic orchid faces challenges that ground-dwelling plants never encounter. Water is scarce despite living in a rainforest because there's no soil to hold moisture, and between rainstorms, everything can dry out quickly in the wind and sun. Orchids have evolved remarkable adaptations to deal with this. Their roots are covered in a tissue called velamen, a spongy layer of dead cells that acts like a sponge, efficiently pulling water directly from humid air when relative humidity rises above 50%. These aerial roots are silvery grey in colour and can be as thick as soda straws, wrapping around branches and hanging in the air. Many orchids also develop pseudobulbs, swollen stem bases that swell with water during periods of abundant moisture and shrivel during dry spells, acting as reservoirs that see the plant through difficult times. But water isn't the only challenge. Nutrients are equally scarce. Without soil, epiphytic plants must be resourceful. Orchids and many other epiphytes form relationships with mycorrhizal fungi, microscopic partners that attach to their roots. The fungi help the plant absorb nutrients from whatever organic matter they can access, like dust that settles on leaves or debris that washes down tree trunks in the rain. In exchange, the plant shares some of the sugars it produces through photosynthesis. It's a fair trade, and it allows orchids to thrive in what would otherwise be a nutritional desert. The diversity of orchid forms is staggering. Some have leaves that are thick and waxy to reduce water loss. Others practice crassulacean acid metabolism, or CAM photosynthesis, a water-conserving strategy where they open their pores at night to take in carbon dioxide, then close them during the day to prevent water loss while still carrying out photosynthesis internally. Their flowers are equally varied, ranging from tiny blooms barely visible to the naked eye, to spectacular displays as large as dinner plates. Colours span the entire spectrum, from pure white to deep purple, vibrant orange to subtle green. Many orchid flowers have evolved intricate shapes and patterns visible only in ultraviolet light, designed to attract specific pollinators like bees, moths, or hummingbirds. The relationship between orchids and their pollinators can be so specific that removing one pollinator species can doom an entire orchid species to extinction. Alongside the orchids grow another remarkable group of epiphytes, the bromeliads. There are over 2,000 species of bromeliads, and about half are epiphytic. These plants, members of the pineapple family, have developed a completely different survival strategy. Instead of relying primarily on their roots, many bromeliads arrange their leaves in a tight spiral that forms a central cup or tank. This natural vessel catches and holds rainwater, creating a miniature aquatic ecosystem dozens of feet above the ground. A single large bromeliad can hold more than 2 gallons of water, and this reservoir becomes a complete habitat in itself. The water in a bromeliad tank isn't clean and clear. It's filled with life. Insects lay their eggs there. Mosquito and midge larvae wriggle through the water. Damselfly nymphs hunt other larvae. Tree frogs deposit their tadpoles in these aerial pools, and some frog species, like certain poison dart frogs, have evolved breeding behaviors entirely dependent on bromeliads. The mother frog will carry her tadpoles on her back, climbing up into the canopy to deposit them in different bromeliad tanks, spreading them out to reduce competition and predation. Then, she returns regularly to lay unfertilized eggs into the water for her tadpoles to eat. The entire life cycle of some frog species happens in these plant-made pools, never touching the ground. The bromeliad benefits from this activity. As creatures live and die in its tank, they produce waste and their bodies decompose, releasing nutrients that the plant absorbs through specialized cells at the base of its leaves. The bromeliad also hosts ants, some species of which establish colonies in the plant, building nests in the spaces between leaves. These ants provide additional benefits. Their waste adds more nutrients to the water, and they defend the plant from herbivores that might otherwise eat it. In some cases, ants even clear away debris from bromeliad leaves, preventing other plants or mosses from growing on their host and keeping it healthy. It's a complex web of mutual benefit, all taking place in what amounts to a living water tower perched on a tree branch. Other epiphytes have different strategies. Spanish moss, which despite its name is actually a bromeliad called Tillandsia, has abandoned the tank strategy entirely. Instead, it drapes over branches in long greyish curtains, its scaly leaves increasing the surface area to harvest moisture directly from the air. It grows slowly, adding only a few inches per year, but it can eventually cover entire trees in a grey-green veil. Ferns are also common epiphytes, with about 1/3 of all fern species growing in trees. Staghorn ferns attach to tree trunks with special shield fronds that curve against the bark, trapping falling leaves and creating a composting basket that the fern then mines for nutrients. The antler-like fronds that give these ferns their name hang down or spread outward, capturing sunlight for photosynthesis. All these epiphytes add a new dimension to the forest. They don't harm their host trees, they simply use them as scaffolding to reach the light. But they create countless new niches for other organisms. A study in Ecuador found over 130 species of epiphytes and more than 3,400 individual plants in just 175 square meters of canopy. The weight of all these plants can be substantial. In some cases, a single tree might support several tons of epiphytes, all living rent-free among its branches. This transforms the canopy from a simple layer of leaves into a vertical jungle, dense with life at every level. Moving through this aerial garden requires special adaptations, and the canopy's mammals have evolved some of the most remarkable locomotion strategies on Earth. Perhaps no animal embodies the canopy lifestyle quite like the sloth. These strange mammals, found in Central and South America, spend nearly their entire lives hanging upside down from branches. There are 6 species divided into 2 groups, 2 toad sloths and 3 toad sloths, though the names are somewhat misleading, as all sloths actually have 3 toes on their hind limbs. The difference is in their front limbs, which have either 2 or 3 clawed digits. Sloths move so slowly that their name has become synonymous with laziness. But this isn't laziness at all. It's an exquisitely fine-tuned survival strategy, shaped by millions of years of evolution. Sloths are folivores, meaning they eat leaves, and leaves are remarkably low in calories and nutrients compared to fruits, seeds, or animal prey. The cellulose that makes up plant cell walls is incredibly difficult to digest, requiring specialized gut bacteria and an enormous amount of time to break down. To survive on this diet, sloths have developed an extremely slow metabolism, the slowest of any non-hibernating mammal on Earth. Their metabolic rate is less than half that of similar-sized mammals, and this affects everything about how they live. They digest their food slowly in a multi-chambered stomach that can account for up to 30% of their body weight when full. This massive digestive system is necessary because breaking down leaves takes time, often weeks for a single meal to pass completely through. The energy they extract from their leafy meals is minimal, barely enough to support basic bodily functions, let alone active movement. So, they conserve energy by moving as little as possible, sometimes traveling less than 40 meters in an entire day. When they do move, it's with careful deliberation, each motion calculated to expend the minimum energy necessary. Their entire physiology is adapted to this upside-down existence. Unlike most mammals, a sloth's hair grows from its belly toward its back, so that water runs off properly when the animal hangs beneath a branch. This reversal of the normal hair growth pattern is just one of many adaptations to inverted living. This hair also grows a microscopic garden of its own. Algae lives in grooves in each hair shaft, microscopic plants that find this moving, sunlit substrate perfect for growth. The algae give sloths a greenish tint, particularly during the rainy season when the growth is most vigorous. And this helps camouflage them among the leaves. This algae also supports an entire community of insects and other tiny organisms. Moths live in sloth fur, and when the sloth descends to the forest floor once a week to defecate, a behavior that puts it at serious risk from predators, these moths lay their eggs in the dung before riding the sloth back up into the canopy. When the moth caterpillars hatch, they feed on the dung, eventually metamorphose into adults, and fly up into the canopy to find a sloth of their own. It's a bizarre life cycle, completely dependent on the sloth's weekly ritual. Why do sloths make this dangerous weekly journey when they could simply defecate from the trees? The answer lies in the reciprocal relationship between sloths and the trees they inhabit. By defecating at the base of the tree, especially the cecropia trees that three-toed sloths prefer, the sloth provides the tree with precious fertilizer, a rare commodity in many rainforests, where nutrients are quickly washed away or absorbed by other plants. It's a slow motion act of gardening, the sloth feeding the tree that feeds it. Sloths sleep 8 to 10 hours a day, less than many people assume, but when they're awake, they move deliberately and slowly, reaching out to grasp leaves, chewing methodically, occasionally shifting position on their branch. Their long claws, which can be several inches long, are perfectly curved hooks that lock around branches with a grip so strong that sloths have been found still hanging in trees days after death. These claws are too specialized for walking, so on the rare occasions when a sloth is on the ground, it drags itself along awkwardly, vulnerable to predators like jaguars and harpy eagles. In sharp contrast to the solitary, silent sloth are the howler monkeys, which are among the loudest animals on Earth. These primates live in troops of 5 to 20 individuals and are famous for their raucous calls that can be heard clearly from over 10 miles away. This incredible volume comes from an enlarged hyoid bone in their throat that acts as a resonance chamber, amplifying their voices to levels that seem impossible from an animal weighing only 20 pounds. Males use these calls to advertise their territory and to communicate with their troop, and at dawn and dusk, the forest echoes with their booming howls, a sound that can be startling if you're not expecting it. Howler monkeys, like sloths, are primarily folivores, though they supplement their diet with fruit when it's available. They share the canopy with sloths and have evolved a similar energy-saving lifestyle. In fact, howler monkeys are considered among the laziest primates, spending most of their day lounging in the treetops and actively moving for only about 45 minutes each day. Their slow metabolism helps them process their leafy diet efficiently, but unlike sloths, howlers are highly social. Living in groups provides protection, opportunities for grooming and bonding, and the ability to defend territory collectively. When two troops meet, the confrontations are usually vocal rather than physical, with males roaring at each other from their respective trees until one group retreats. Where howler monkeys sit and call, spider monkeys swing and leap with astonishing agility. These long-limbed primates have evolved what might be the most versatile adaptation for canopy life: a fully prehensile tail that acts like a fifth limb. The underside of the tail tip is hairless and covered in sensitive skin similar to a fingertip, with ridges that improve grip. A spider monkey can hang by its tail alone, freeing all four limbs to gather food. And it can wrap its tail around a branch with such strength that it's nearly impossible to dislodge. With this extra grasping appendage, spider monkeys move through the canopy with fluid grace, brachiating from branch to branch, sometimes covering 40 feet in a single leap. This agility comes with trade-offs. Spider monkeys have light builds to make them better acrobats, and they lack the thick fur and fat layers of ground-dwelling monkeys. They're also highly dependent on the canopy remaining intact. When forests are fragmented, spider monkeys often struggle because they're reluctant to descend to the ground to cross gaps between tree patches. Their specialized lifestyle makes them vulnerable to habitat loss. Halfway around the world, in the forests of Southeast Asia, another group of primates has taken canopy locomotion even further. Gibbons, often called the lesser apes, are the undisputed masters of brachiation, the act of swinging by the arms from branch to branch. 80% of a gibbon's movement happens this way, with the animal using only its arms to propel itself through the forest canopy. They can travel at speeds of up to 34 miles per hour, launching themselves through the air in arcs that span 50 feet or more. Several adaptations make this possible. Gibbons have extremely long arms, sometimes exceeding 7 feet in span, and their hands have evolved into curved hooks, perfect for grasping branches. Their wrist joints function like ball and socket joints, allowing for biaxial movement that greatly reduces the energy needed in the upper arm and torso, while also reducing stress on the shoulder. Their lightweight bodies, usually weighing less than 15 pounds, make them easy to swing. Gibbons have strong hind limbs too, which they use for leaping, and their combination of arm and leg strength allows them to navigate their arboreal habitat with precision and speed that has to be seen to be believed. Gibbons are also highly vocal, though in a very different way than howler monkeys. Mated pairs perform elaborate duets that echo through the forest, their songs declaring territory and strengthening pair bonds. Some species have enlarged throat sacs that inflate to amplify sound, and their voices, while not as loud as howlers, are hauntingly beautiful, musical calls that carry over long distances. Unlike many primates, gibbons are monogamous, at least socially, though not always sexually, and they form long-term pair bonds that can last a lifetime. Their territories are relatively small, usually encompassing the crowns of a few dozen trees, and they defend these areas vigorously from other gibbon families. The diversity of canopy mammals extends beyond primates. Tree kangaroos, found in the rainforests of Papua New Guinea and northeastern Australia, are marsupials that have returned to the trees after their ancestors left them millions of years ago. Unlike their ground-dwelling kangaroo relatives, tree kangaroos have strong forelimbs for climbing, longer tails for balance, and rubbery soles that prevent slipping on wet bark. They move through the canopy with surprising agility, able to leap up to 30 feet between branches and descend trees headfirst, something few marsupials can do. Their diet consists mainly of leaves, fruits, and flowers, and like many canopy dwellers, they rarely descend to the ground unless forced to cross a gap in the forest. Above all these mammals, Above the leafy crowns where they feed and rest, another kingdom thrives, one painted in every colour imaginable. The canopy birds are among the most spectacular creatures in any ecosystem, and they've evolved to exploit every resource the treetops offer. Toucans, with their impossibly large beaks, are perhaps the most iconic canopy birds. These beaks, which can be 4 times the size of the bird's head and nearly as long as its body, have puzzled scientists for decades. Multiple theories attempt to explain their function, some suggesting they help the bird reach fruit on thin branches that couldn't support its body weight. Others proposing they're used in social signaling to attract mates or intimidate rivals. And still others noting they may help with thermoregulation, radiating heat in the tropical climate. The truth is probably a combination of all these factors, but what's certain is that despite their size, these beaks are remarkably lightweight. They're made of a honeycomb-like structure of bony struts covered by a thin layer of keratin, strong enough to crack nuts and grasp fruit, but light enough not to impede flight. Toucans use their beaks like precision tools, plucking berries from the ends of branches, then tossing them back into their throats with a flick of the head, much like a person catching grapes in their mouth. The beak's serrated edges help them manipulate and sometimes skin their food, and they'll also eat insects, bird eggs, and occasionally small vertebrates. Toucans are highly social, traveling in loose flocks of up to 22 individuals. They nest in tree cavities, both males and females, incubating the eggs for 15 to 18 days, and they're believed to be monogamous at least during breeding season. Though they're strong flyers once aloft, getting airborne is a bit awkward. Flight typically consists of a leap from one tree, a few clumsy wing beats that look almost laboured, a carefully planned glide, and a landing that requires a bit of luck. Despite this ungainly flight style, toucans are crucial to rainforest health. They pass seeds through their digestive systems, helping to disperse plants across the forest, and in some cases, they're the primary dispersers for certain tree species. If toucans are known for their beaks, macaws are celebrated for their intelligence and spectacular plumage. These large parrots, with wingspans reaching up to 33 inches, are living rainbows, their feathers displaying brilliant reds, blues, yellows, and greens in combinations that seem almost too vivid to be natural. Scarlet macaws and blue and yellow macaws are perhaps the most recognized. Their colors so bright they're visible from great distances through the forest canopy. This brilliant plumage serves multiple purposes. It helps individuals recognize members of their own species. It plays a role in mate selection, and counterintuitively, it can actually provide camouflage when the bird is perched high in a fruiting tree, where flowers and fruits create patches of bright color. Macaws are among the longest-lived birds in the world, with some individuals reaching 80 years old in the wild. They mate for life, forming bonds so strong that if one partner dies, the other may live out its remaining years alone, or, in rare cases, join another pair to form a trio rather than seeking a new mate. These pair bonds are reinforced through constant communication. Macaws are loud, their calls carrying for miles through the forest, and pairs can often be seen flying together, their wingtips nearly touching, calling back and forth in what sounds like conversation. Their powerful beaks, hooked and strong, can generate tremendous pressure, easily cracking the hardest nuts and seeds. This gives macaws access to food resources that other birds can't exploit, and it makes them important seed dispersers. In the Amazon, macaws and other parrots engage in a curious behavior called geophagy, gathering by the hundreds, even thousands, along clay cliffs to eat mineral-rich soil. Scientists believe this clay helps bind and neutralize toxins found in many of the seeds and unripe fruits the birds eat, allowing them to digest food that would otherwise poison them. Watching a clay lick at dawn, with wave after wave of colourful parrots descending to the banks, is one of the great spectacles of the Amazon. Where macaws are large and bold, hummingbirds are tiny and jewel-like. These remarkable birds, found only in the New World, are the smallest birds in the world, with the bee hummingbird measuring just 2 inches from bill tip to tail tip, half of which is beak and tail. Despite their diminutive size, hummingbirds are engineering marvels. Their hearts beat between 450 and 1300 times per minute, and they must consume up to half their body weight in nectar each day to fuel their metabolism. They're the only birds that can truly hover, their wings beating in a figure-8 pattern up to 80 times per second, generating lift on both the forward and backward strokes. This hovering ability allows hummingbirds to feed from flowers while airborne, their long, specialized beaks reaching deep into blossoms to access nectar. Different hummingbird species have different bill shapes, each matched to the flowers they pollinate. Some have straight bills, others curved, and a few have bills that curve so dramatically they look like scythes. The relationship between hummingbirds and the flowers they visit is so specific that some plants can only be pollinated by a single species of hummingbird. The bird gets food, and in return, it carries pollen on its forehead or throat to the next flower, ensuring the plant's reproduction. To conserve energy at night, hummingbirds enter a state called torpor, where their metabolism slows dramatically. Their heart rate drops to 35 to 50 beats per minute, and their body temperature approaches the ambient temperature. They're essentially shutting down to avoid starving before morning. When dawn comes, it takes them about 20 minutes to warm up and resume normal activity. This daily cycle of near death and resurrection is just one of the many extraordinary adaptations that allows these tiny birds to thrive in the energy-expensive canopy environment. Not all canopy birds are nectar sippers or fruit eaters. The harpy eagle, one of the world's most powerful raptors, rules the emergent layer, patrolling above the canopy for prey. These massive eagles, with wingspans exceeding 6.5 feet, are built for hunting in forests. Unlike eagles of open country, which have long, broad wings for soaring, harpy eagles have relatively short wings and long tails, adaptations that allow them to maneuver quickly through dense branches. Their eyesight is extraordinarily keen, able to spot a sloth or monkey from great distances, even in the dappled light of the canopy. When a harpy eagle hunts, it drops from its perch with devastating speed, striking its prey with talons that can exert hundreds of pounds of pressure per square inch. These talons, which can be larger than a grizzly bear's claws, are powerful enough to crush a monkey's skull or pierce through a sloth's tough hide. Harpy eagles are apex predators, and they have few natural enemies. They're also long-lived, with individuals surviving 35 to 40 years in the wild, and like many large raptors, they mate for life and raise their young with extraordinary care. Beneath the birds, among the very structure of the trees themselves, exists perhaps the most diverse group of canopy dwellers, the insects. Scientists estimate that insects may represent as many as 30 million species globally, and the vast majority of these live in tropical forests, predominantly in the canopy. A single tree in Panama was found to host over 950 species of beetles, and that's just one order of insects on one tree. The true insect diversity of the canopy is almost beyond comprehension. Beetles, belonging to the order Coleoptera, are the most diverse group, with over 23,000 species described in the United States alone, and countless more in tropical regions awaiting discovery. In the canopy, beetles occupy every imaginable niche. Some eat leaves, chewing through the waxy coatings that many canopy plants develop to reduce water loss. Others bore into wood, colonizing dying branches and helping break them down into nutrients. Jewel beetles, with their massive eyes and iridescent carapaces, are among the most beautiful, their watchful alertness making them difficult to collect as they flee at the slightest disturbance. Weevils, with their elongated snouts, drill into seeds and fruits, their larvae developing inside. The sheer variety of beetle forms, colors, sizes, and lifestyles in the canopy represents millions of years of evolutionary radiation, each species finding a slightly different way to make a living. Ants, members of the order Hymenoptera, are equally diverse and perhaps even more important to canopy ecology. Army ants, famous for their massive colonies that can number over 600,000 individuals, occasionally venture into the canopy, but many other ant species live their entire lives in the trees, never touching the ground. Weaver ants build nests from leaves, using silk produced by their larvae to stitch leaves together into large, hanging structures. These nests can house thousands of ants, and the colonies defend them vigorously, biting any intruder with mandibles that deliver a painful, chemical-loaded sting. Some ants have evolved specific relationships with plants. Certain acacia trees provide hollow thorns for ants to nest in and produce special nutritious structures called Beltian bodies that the ants harvest for food. In return, the ants defend the tree from herbivores, attacking any insect or mammal that tries to eat the leaves. The ants will even clear vegetation around the base of the tree, eliminating plants that might compete with their host. It's a classic example of mutualism, both parties benefiting from the arrangement, and it demonstrates how intertwined the lives of canopy species can become. Butterflies and moths, collectively called Lepidoptera, are among the most visible canopy insects, though visible is relative. Many species have cryptic coloration that makes them nearly impossible to spot when they're resting on bark or leaves. Others are brilliantly colored, their wings painted with patterns in metallic blues, vivid oranges, and deep blacks. These patterns serve multiple functions. Some warn predators that the butterfly is toxic, having sequestered poisons from the plants it ate as a caterpillar. Others are used in mate recognition, the colors and patterns acting like species-specific identification cards. Many butterflies can see in ultraviolet light, and their wings often have patterns visible only in that spectrum, hidden from human eyes but obvious to other butterflies. The transformation from caterpillar to butterfly is one of nature's most remarkable metamorphoses. Caterpillars, voracious eating machines, spend their days consuming leaves, growing through several molts as they shed their skin to accommodate their increasing size. Some caterpillars have evolved relationships with ants, producing sweet secretions that the ants harvest while protecting the caterpillar from predators and parasites. When a caterpillar is ready to pupate, it finds a sheltered spot, often on the underside of a leaf or tucked into a crevice, and forms a chrysalis. Inside this seemingly inert shell, the caterpillar's body essentially dissolves and reorganizes. Certain cell clusters, called imaginal discs, directing the formation of wings, compound eyes, long legs, and all the other structures of the adult butterfly. Weeks later, the adult emerges, pumps fluid into its wings to expand them, and takes its first flight, ready to seek nectar and a mate. Butterflies and moths play crucial roles as pollinators, visiting flowers throughout the canopy. Some species, particularly many moths, are specialists, pollinating only one or a few species of plants. If these insects disappear, the plants lose their pollinators and can't reproduce, leading to cascading effects through the ecosystem. The relationship between certain butterflies and ants goes even deeper than simple protection. Some butterfly caterpillars have evolved to live inside ant nests, fooling the ants through chemical mimicry and physical signals. The caterpillar of the rhodonid butterfly Pseudonymphidia agave was discovered living among the brood of aggressive ponerine ants inside nests built in bromeliads. The caterpillar's cuticle is covered with specialized flat setae, forming an armor of small plates, and it has organs that likely produce chemical signals the ants recognize as friendly. This is social parasitism, the caterpillar taking advantage of the ant's protection while offering nothing in return, and it represents one of the most sophisticated examples of insect deception. In the canopy. Among all the canopy's vertebrate inhabitants, few are as perfectly adapted to life in the trees as the tree frogs. These amphibians have conquered a realm that might seem inhospitable to creatures that need to keep their skin moist and must return to water to reproduce. Yet here they are, dozens of feet above the ground, clinging to leaves and branches, hunting insects, and raising their young in aerial pools. The key to a tree frog's success lies in its feet. While aquatic frogs have webbed toes for swimming, tree frogs have adhesive pads on their toe tips. These pads are covered with tiny hexagonal cells separated by microscopic channels. When the frog presses its toe against a surface, these cells conform to the microscopic irregularities of the bark or leaf, and the channels create capillary forces that help the pad stick. It's not quite suction and not quite glue, but rather a combination of physical forces that allow the frog to cling even to vertical surfaces or hang upside down from leaves. The pads are also self-cleaning, shedding outer layers of cells as they wear, and revealing fresh adhesive surface beneath. Tree frogs come in remarkable variety. Glass frogs, found in Central and South American cloud forests, have translucent undersides that allow you to see their internal organs, their hearts beating visibly through their skin. These frogs are small, usually no more than 3 inches long, and they live along streams in montane forests, laying their eggs on leaves that overhang water. When the tadpoles hatch, they drop into the stream below to complete their development. The males guard the eggs, sitting on them to keep them moist and fending off predators and parasites. This extended parental care is unusual among amphibians and speaks to the challenges of living and breeding in the canopy where conditions can be harsh. Poison dart frogs represent perhaps the most colourful and fascinating group of canopy amphibians, though many species spend considerable time on the forest floor. These small frogs, rarely exceeding 2 inches in length, have evolved one of nature's most effective defensive strategies. Their skin produces toxic alkaloid compounds that can cause symptoms ranging from mild numbness to paralysis and death, depending on the species. The golden poison frog, native to Colombia, is the most toxic vertebrate on Earth. A single frog carries enough poison to kill 10 adult humans or 20,000 mice, and indigenous tribes have used this poison for centuries to tip their hunting darts, giving these frogs their common name. What makes poison dart frogs even more remarkable is that they don't manufacture these toxins themselves. Instead, they acquire them from their diet. In the wild, these frogs eat ants, termites, and beetles that contain or have sequestered toxic compounds from the plants they consume. The frogs eat these insects, absorb the toxins without harm, and store them in glands in their skin. When kept in captivity and fed a toxin-free diet, poison dart frogs gradually lose their poison, becoming harmless within a few generations. This dietary origin of their toxicity has made scientists wonder what specific arthropods provide which toxins, and recent studies have identified certain ants and millipedes as key dietary sources. The bright coloration of poison dart frogs, featuring combinations of electric blue, brilliant yellow, deep red, and jet black, serves as a posomatic warning to predators. These colors announce that eating this frog would be a serious mistake. Most predators learn this quickly, and poison dart frogs can move about in broad daylight with little fear. In fact, they're diurnal, active during the day when most amphibians are hiding, and they're often bold and territorial, defending their small territories from other frogs. Their breeding behavior is equally fascinating. Males call to attract females, producing soft trills and chirps, rather than the loud croaks of many frogs. Once a female responds, courtship proceeds with tactile nudging and leading behavior as the male guides the female to an egg-laying site. Most poison dart frogs lay only a few eggs, sometimes just 2 or 3, but they provide extraordinary parental care. The eggs are laid on leaves or in moist crevices, and the male guards them, keeping them moist by urinating on them if necessary. When the tadpoles hatch, the parent, usually the male, allows them to crawl onto his back, where they stick to a mucus layer on his skin. Then begins a vertical journey. The male climbs high into the canopy, carrying his precious cargo to the phytotelmata, the water-filled plant structures that dot the aerial world. Bromeliads are the most common destination, their central tanks providing perfect nurseries. The male carefully deposits one tadpole into each bromeliad tank, spreading them among many plants to reduce the risk of losing all offspring to a single predator. Giant damselfly nymphs, which also inhabit bromeliad pools, are the main threat, along with other dart frog species that might cannibalize the tadpoles. In some species, the mother returns to each tadpole regularly, depositing unfertilized eggs into the water for them to eat. This provisioning behavior, essentially nursing through unfertilized eggs, ensures the tadpoles have enough food in their otherwise nutrient-poor pools. It takes 6 to 12 weeks for a tadpole to metamorphose into a tiny froglet, at which point it leaves its aerial pool and begins life as a terrestrial adult. This entire reproductive cycle, from courtship to metamorphosis, happens largely in the canopy, demonstrating how completely these amphibians have adapted to life in the trees. All of these creatures, from the epiphytes to the eagles, from the insects to the frogs, exist not in isolation, but as parts of an intricate web. The canopy is a place of countless connections, where every organism affects and is affected by others in ways both obvious and subtle. Pollination is perhaps the most visible of these connections. Flowers bloom throughout the year in tropical canopies, and they've evolved to attract specific pollinators. Some flowers open at night, producing powerful fragrances to attract moths and bats. Others bloom during the day with bright colors and copious nectar to draw in hummingbirds, bees, and butterflies. The shapes of flowers often match the beaks or mouthparts of their pollinators. Long, tubular flowers match long hummingbird bills. Bowl-shaped flowers accommodate bees that need a landing platform. Some orchids have evolved flowers that mimic female insects so convincingly that males attempt to mate with them, collecting pollen in the process. This specialized relationship between plants and pollinators drives the evolution of both groups. As plants evolve more complex flower structures to ensure pollination, pollinators evolve more sophisticated mechanisms to access the nectar. It's an evolutionary arms race of sorts, but one where both sides win. The plant gets its pollen delivered to another flower of its species, ensuring genetic diversity and successful reproduction. The pollinator gets a reliable food source. Break this relationship, remove the pollinator, and the plant can't reproduce. Lose the plant, and the pollinator loses a food source and must find alternatives. Seed dispersal is equally important. Many canopy trees produce fruits specifically to attract animals that will eat them and disperse the seeds. The fruits might be nutritious pulp surrounding large seeds, or they might be small packages that contain oils or proteins. Birds like toucans and parrots, along with monkeys, bats, and many other mammals, eat these fruits and then fly or climb to other parts of the forest where they defecate or spit out the seeds. Some seeds must pass through an animal's digestive system to germinate properly. The acids and enzymes scarifying the seed coat in ways that allow the embryo to break through later. Trees benefit from having their seeds dispersed away from the parent. Seedlings that fall directly beneath their parent often die, shaded out by the adult tree's crown, or attacked by the same herbivores and diseases that affect the parent. But a seed carried a mile away by a monkey or bird has a chance to find a forest gap where a tree has fallen, creating a patch of sunlight where a seedling can establish itself. The fruit eater benefits by having a food source, and it often remembers where fruiting trees are located, returning to them year after year. Some animals, like spider monkeys, have been observed visiting the same fig trees for generations, suggesting these relationships can be remarkably stable. Predation shapes the canopy too, though it operates differently than on the ground. In the trees, camouflage becomes even more important. Many insects mimic bark, leaves, or twigs so completely that they're invisible until they move. Stick insects, leaf-mimicking katydids, and bark-mimicking moths all demonstrate convergent evolution toward becoming invisible. The selective pressure is intense because there's nowhere to hide in the canopy except in plain sight. A predator that can't find you can't eat you, so any adaptation that improves camouflage increases survival. But predators have evolved too. Eagles and hawks have extraordinary vision, able to detect the slightest movement from great distances. Snakes that hunt in trees often have large eyes and can sense infrared radiation from warm-blooded prey. Some spiders spin webs that stretch between trees, capturing flying insects, and their webs are engineering marvels, strong enough to catch birds in some cases, yet light enough that a few milligrams of silk can span gaps of several meters. The interconnections in the canopy extend to relationships we can't easily see. Fungi form networks through tree roots, connecting different trees and allowing them to share nutrients and chemical signals. When one tree is attacked by insects, it can send chemical warnings through this network, prompting neighboring trees to produce defensive compounds before the herbivores arrive. Trees communicate through the air too, releasing volatile organic compounds when damaged that nearby trees detect and respond to by ramping up their own defenses. The canopy even influences the world far below it. The leaf litter that falls creates the foundation for the forest floor ecosystem, feeding decomposers that break down organic matter and release nutrients back into the soil. The tree's roots pump water from deep underground, and this water is transpired through their leaves, adding moisture to the air. In the Amazon, this transpiration is so massive that the forest creates its own rain clouds, essentially manufacturing weather. Scientists estimate the Amazon releases billions of liters of water vapor into the air each day, moisture that rises, cools, condenses, and falls back as rain. This self-sustaining cycle keeps the forest green even during drier months and influences rainfall patterns thousands of miles away. Standing at the forest floor and looking up, it's easy to see the canopy as simply a roof, a layer of leaves blocking the sky. But it's so much more. It's a three-dimensional landscape as complex as any terrestrial habitat, a world of vertical gardens and aerial highways, of hidden pools and sunlit terraces. It's home to creatures that never touch the ground, plants that float in the air, and relationships so intricate that we're still discovering them despite decades of study. Every branch is a road, every tree crown a neighborhood, every bromeliad tank a miniature ecosystem complete with predators, prey, and decomposers. The canopy represents one of the last frontiers of biological exploration. Despite our technological advances, despite canopy walkways and construction cranes and drones, we've likely described only a fraction of the species that live in the trees. New species are discovered regularly, from tiny insects to relatively large vertebrates. The biodiversity of the canopy is both staggering and fragile. Deforestation doesn't just remove trees from the ground, it erases entire vertical ecosystems, sending species that live only in the canopy into extinction before we even know they exist. When we protect forests, we're not just saving the trees, we're preserving the orchids that grow on those trees, the frogs that breed in bromeliads growing on the orchids, the insects those frogs eat, the birds that visit the flowers those insects pollinate, and on through chains of connection we're only beginning to understand. The canopy is a reminder that nature operates at scales and complexities that challenge our understanding, that there are still mysteries in the world, still wonders to discover if we take the time to look up. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, imagine yourself floating among the branches, a leaf high above the forest floor. Feel the breeze moving through the leaves around you. Hear the distant call of a howler monkey greeting the sunset. Watch a hummingbird hover at a flower just an arm's length away. The canopy is a world that exists in parallel to our own, following different rules, operating on different timescales, yet connected to everything else in ways we're only beginning to appreciate. It's a world worth knowing about, worth protecting, and worth returning to, at least in our dreams. If tonight's journey into the treetops has given you a moment of peace, or sparked your curiosity about the hidden layers of our planet, I hope you'll consider subscribing to Bedtime Biology. Your likes, comments, and shares help others discover these explorations of the quiet wonders around us. Let me know in the comments what other ecosystems or biological topics you'd like to hear about. Until next time, sleep well, and remember that there's always more to discover when you know where to look.